Chaireta mathetai. Now that you're used to reading the Greek alphabet, we're going to introduce the various marks over the top of the letters that you've been noticing. These are a little bit complicated. They're called diacritical marks, but I'm sure you're up to it. The Greeks themselves did not evidently need these marks. They did not get introduced to our manuscripts, as far as we know, until the period in the Hellenistic age, when there were lots of foreigners, xenoi, who wanted to learn Greek and didn't know how to pronounce it. So the Greeks helpfully started adding in accent marks and breathing marks. Breathings indicate whether there is a breath at the beginning of a word. Some of the consonants, as you'll remember, are aspirated consonants. But words beginning with vowels need to indicate one way or the other, whether there is or is not a breathing at the beginning or an H sound. The marks that indicate this look like little single quotation marks. An apostrophe or a single close quote indicates there is no aspiration. So you see this vowel would be pronounced o, that's a smooth breathing. The other side, the opening quote, indicates a rough breathing, and so this vowel would be pronounced ho. Ho is in fact the definite article in Greek. It means the. Every word in the Greek language that begins with rho is aspirated, and there will always be a rough breathing appearing over an initial rho. That's why in English we end up with so many Greek derivatives that start with an RH. And Greek words beginning with the letter ypsilon are also invariably aspirated, so they always take a rough breathing. The breathings are important. You will be tempted to read past them, but you should not. For example, the pronoun auton is in the masculine, or autein in the feminine, looks exactly like the intensive pronoun except for the breathing. So hauton means himself, hautein herself, auton him, autein her. Notice that when you have a diphthong at the beginning of the word, the breathing will appear over the second letter of the diphthong. And now accents. Accents are a little bit complicated, but if you're patient, you can absorb the rules, and then once you've got them, it will be absolutely fine, I promise. Again, as with the breathings, the Greeks knew how to accent their words, but when non-Greeks or barbarians started learning the language, the Greeks wrote them in for them. There are 3 different accents, and so I'm going to go through the different rules for each of the 3 kinds of accents. You need to remember some things to begin with, okay? First of all, you need to remember that the vowels in Greek can be either short or long. Remember, eta and omega, always long. Alpha, iota, upsilon can be either long or short. Diphthongs, combinations of 2 vowels, are always long. And then there's a little shorthand we use talking about the last 3 syllables of the word. The final syllable is called the ultima, the second to last syllable is called the penult, and this syllable before that is called the antepenult. So that's terminology you're going to need to remember. So we'll start with the easiest kind of accent. That's called the grave. It's written as a falling line. Again, it's written over either directly over a single vowel or over the second vowel of a diphthong. The grave accent can only appear over the ultima of a word. It never appears over the penult or the antepenult. It can appear over both long and short vowels, but you only ever get it when the word is followed directly by another accented word. So in this example, we have nekros ei, okay, and because a is a word with an accent, and it's directly after nekros without a comma or a period, then you get the grave accent over that final syllable. Nekros ei, by the way, means you are a corpse, if you're masculine. If there is a pause after the word, then rather than getting the grave accent, you'll get the normal form of that accent, which is the acute accent. Okay, and the acute is the opposite. It's a rising line rather than a falling line. Again, it can occur over both long and short vowels. And the acute accent can fall on any of the three final syllables. So here are three particular examples. Dramata over the antepenult, biblion over the penult, nekros over the ultima, and you can get an acute accent over either long or short vowels. And last of all, we have the circumflex, which is in fact a combination of the rising and the falling. So it's in some senses a combination accent. It is written in the typography. And the last of the three is called the circumflex. This accent is essentially a combination of the first two. You get a rising line and then a falling line. Our typography makes it into a tilde, but sometimes you'll see it also as a little hat like that. Since it's a combination accent, it needs to stand on a long vowel or diphthong. There's not time for you to say it if it's just over a short vowel, so you'll never find one on a short vowel, and it may stand on the ultima or the penult, but you will never find it on the antepenult. So Sophocles, there it is on the ultima, pseudos on the penult, but mimetikos would be, you would know instantly that that was wrong. You can't have it on the antepenult. That word actually is accented on the ultima, but a circumflex must stand either on the penult or the ultima. So, to review, you can get the acute accent on any of the three, antepenult, penult, or ultima. You can get the circumflex on either the penult or the ultima, but the syllable must be long, and you get the grave only on the ultima. Unfortunately, that is not all. There's more, because there are certain restrictions on where accents can fall that depend on the length of all of the different syllables. So, listen carefully, okay? We're going to go through what happens when the accent falls on each of the positions where it can happen. So we'll start with the antepenult. If you have an antepenult that is accented, then the ultima has to be short. Okay, if the ultima is short, you're fine with an acute on the antepenult. Remember, you'll never get a circumflex on the antepenult. It's not allowed to stand there. You'll never get a grave on the antepenult. It's not allowed to stand there. So if the antepenult is accented, it will be an acute accent. And if the ultima is a short vowel, that's fine. If the ultima is a long vowel or diphthong, then the acute isn't allowed to stand on the antepenult, and it'll get pulled forward onto the penult. So you have anthropos, which means human being, but as long as the ultima there is that omicron, that nice short omicron, the accent can stand on the antepenult. But as soon as the last syllable changes to oo with that long diphthong, then the accent needs to get pulled forward to the penult, anthropou. So anthropos, but anthropou. Okay, so with the accent on the antepenult, remember you were dependent on the quantity of the ultima. If the accent is on the penult, then you have to think about the quantity of both of the last two syllables, the penult and the ultima, because what kind of accent you get will depend on that combination. So think first about the cases where the ultima is short. If the ultima is short and the penult is long, then you're going to get a circumflex on the penult. So ne sos, a short ultima, a long penult, circumflex. If the ultima is short and the penult is also short, then that penult will take an acute accent. So biblion, short ultima, short penult, acute accent. Okay, if the ultima is long, in the case of an accented penult, remember we're always talking about that. In the case of a long ultima, then the accent over the penult will always be acute, whether that penult is long or short. So anthropu, that omega is a long penult. Agamemnon, that epsilon is a short penult. In both cases, the word will take an acute accent on the penult because of that long ultima. Another way to think about this is the following. If you have an accented penult, the combination long penult short ultima produces a circumflex, ne sos. Any other combination of long and short syllables will produce an acute. So biblion, short short, anthropu, long long, Agamemnon, short long. All of those combinations produce an acute over the penult. Only in the case of a long penult and a short ultima do you get the circumflex over the penult. So to review again, you can get the acute accent in any of the three positions. Over long and short vowels, you can get the circumflex accent only in the two final positions and only over long vowels, and you can get the grave accent only in the final position over either a long or a short vowel. Final position. But there are, in fact, some limitations on those positions that are imposed by the quantities of the vowels. In the case of acute accents, they can stand in any position as long as the quantity of the ultima is short. They can stand in the second two positions if the quantity of the ultima is long. The circumflex can stand either on the penult or the ultima, but if the ultima is long, then that accent must shift to an acute. Okay, we're almost done here. I just want to go through two kinds of accenting because these are both very important. First of all, what's called the recessive accent. Most verbs have a recessive accent. That means the accent will stand as far back toward the beginning of the word as it possibly can. Okay? That means, again, that your key is going to be to look at the quantity of the ultima. If the ultima is short, there's a short alpha, then the accent can go all the way back to the antepenult. If the ultima is long, as in this diphthong, a, then the accent can go back to the penult. All right, so that's pretty easy peasy. All you have to do is look at the ultima. If it's short, you go to the antepenult. If it's long, you go to the penult. The other kind of accenting is called persistent, and most nouns will have a persistent accent. That means that the accent stays on the same syllable, but it alters as necessary following the rules that you've already learned. Okay, so if that accent starts on the antepenult, it's fine as long as the ultima is short, but when the ultima is long, it will move from the antepenult to the penult. So anthropos, short ultima, anthropu, long ultima. If the accent starts out on the penult, okay, remember that if the ultima changes from a short to a long, then the accent on the penult will change from a circumflex to an acute, and vice versa. But if the penult is short, then the accent can remain unchanged and it will be an acute. Biblion, bibliu, but ne sos ne su. And finally, over the ultima, you can have a circumflex and that will just stay a circumflex, but if you have an acute, then that has to change to a grave if it's followed immediately by another word. So Sophocles nekros ein, Sophocles was a corpse. The circumflex at the end of Sophocles can stay, but the acute at the end of nekros has to change to a grave when it is followed by an accented word. Phew! Okay, that's tough, but learn them, they're important, and you'll get used to it quicker than you think.